30, verses 1 through 10. Deuteronomy, the book of the law. Deuteronomy chapter 30, verses 1 through 10. Prophecy of the awakening. And it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations whither Yahweh thy Elohim hath driven thee, and shalt return unto Yahweh thy Elohim, and shalt obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children, all thy heart and with all thy soul, that then Yahweh thy Elohim will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations with Yahweh thy Elohim have scattered thee. If any of thine be driven out unto the outmost parts of heaven, from thence will Yahweh thy Elohim gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee. And Yahweh thy Elohim will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed, and thou shalt possess it. And he will do thee good, and multiply thee above thy fathers. And Yahweh thy Elohim will circumcise thy heart, and the heart of thy seed, to love Yahweh thy Elohim with all thy heart and with all thy soul, that thou mayest live. And Yahweh thy Elohim will put all these curses upon thine enemies, and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee. And thou shalt return and obey the voice of Yahweh, and do all his commandments, which I command thee this day. And Yahweh thy Elohim will make thee plenteous in every work of thine hand, in the fruit of thy body, and in the fruit of thy cattle, and in the fruit of thy land, for good. For Yahweh will again rejoice over thee for good, as he rejoiced over thy fathers, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of Yahweh thy Elohim, to keep his commandments and his statutes which are written in this book of the law. And if thou turn unto Yahweh thy Elohim with all thy heart and with all thy soul. Deuteronomy. Adavari. These be the words, chapter 30, verses 1 through 10. Now we turn to Yeshaya. Yeshaya, chapter 58. Yeshaya 58, verses 12 to 14. Yeshaya chapter 58, verses 12 to 14. And they that shall be of thee shall build the old waste places. Thou shalt raise up the foundations of many generations, and thou shalt be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of paths to dwell in. If thou turn away thy foot from the Sabbath, from doing thy pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight, the holy of Yahweh honorable, and shall honor him, not doing thine own ways, nor finding thine own pleasure, nor speaking thine own words, then shalt thou delight thyself in Yahweh, and I will cause thee to ride upon the high places of the earth, and feed thee with the heritage of Jacob thy father, for the mouth of Yahweh hath spoken. Yeshaya chapter 58, verses 12 to 14. Now we turn to the book Acts of the Apostles. Acts of the Apostles, chapter 13. Acts of the Apostles, chapter 13, verses 38 to 44. Be it known unto you, therefore, men and brethren, that through this man is preached unto you the forgiveness of sins, and by him all that believe are justified from all things for which ye could not be justified by the law of Moses. Beware, therefore, lest that come upon you, which is spoken of in the prophets. Behold, ye despisers, and wonder and perish. For I work a work in your days, a work which ye shall in no wise believe, though a man declare it unto you. And when the Yahudim were gone out of the synagogue, the Gentiles besought that these words might be preached to them, the next sect. Now, When the congregation was broken up, many of the Yahudim and religious proselytes followed Paul and Barnabas, who, speaking to them, persuaded them to continue in the grace of Yahweh. And the next Sabbath day came almost the whole city together to hear the word of Yahweh. That was Acts chapter 13, verses 38 to 44. Now we turn to the epistle that is addressed to the Hebrews. The epistle addressed to the Hebrews, Hebrews chapter 8. Hebrews chapter 8, verses 6 through 12. Hebrews chapter 8, verses 6 through 12. But now hath he obtained a more excellent ministry, by how much also he is the mediator of a better covenant, which was established upon better promises. For if that first covenant had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second. For finding fault with them, he saith, Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they continued not in my covenant, and I regarded them not, saith Yahweh. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith Yahweh. I will put my laws into their mind and write them in their hearts, and I will be to them a Elohim, and they shall be to me a people. And they shall not teach every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, Know Yahweh, for all shall know me, from the least to the greatest. For I will be merciful to their unrighteousness, and their sins and their iniquities will I remember no more. Isaiah, Hebrews chapter 8, verses 6 through 12. Hebrews 8, verses 6 through 12. Now we turn to the revelation of the Messiah. Revelation of the Messiah, Yahushua. Revelation chapter 14. Revelation 14, verse 6, 7, and 12. Revelation chapter 14, verses 6, 7, and 12. And I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach unto them that dwell on the earth, and to every nation and kindred and tongue and people, saying with a loud voice, Fear Yahweh and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him that made heaven and earth, the sea, and the fountains of waters. Verse 12. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of Yahweh and the faith of Yahushua. Praise the Most High God. Revelation chapter 14, that was verse 6, 7, and 12. Now we turn to where we are today, actually, Revelation chapter 11, and we're looking at the seventh trumpet, Revelation chapter 11. Revelation 11, we're going to read from verse 15 to verse 19. And the seventh angel sounded, and there were great voices in heaven saying, The kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Yahweh and of his Messiah, and he shall reign forever and ever. And the 24 elders which sat before Yahweh on their seats fell upon their faces and worshipped Yahweh, saying, We give thee thanks, O Yahweh al Shaddai, which art and wast and art to come, because thou hast taken to thee thy great power and hast reigned. And the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, and the time of the dead, that they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants the prophets, and to the saints, and them that fear thy name, small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth. And the temple of Yahweh was opened in heaven, and there was seen in his temple the ark of his testament. And there were voices, and there were lightnings, and voices and thunderings and an earthquake and great hail. Revelation chapter 11, verses 15 to 19. Last but not least, we return to Yeshaya. Yeshaya chapter 58. Yeshaya chapter 58. I'm sorry, chapter 66. I'm just off right now. Yeshaya chapter 66, verses 22 to 24. Yeshaya 66, 22 to 24. For as the new heavens and the new earth, which I will make, shall remain before me, saith Yahweh, so shall your seed and your name remain. And it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me, saith Yahweh. And they shall go forth and look upon the carcasses of the men that have transgressed against me. For their worm shall not die, neither shall their fire be quenched, and they shall be an abhorring unto all flesh. That ends the morning reading of the scriptures. So we've been looking at Revelation, of course, and we've been studying. Now we're in chapter 11. We're into the seventh trumpets, and we're in the sixth of the seven trumpets. And we started that last night with our discussion in the study of the two witnesses. We're going to continue that today, and I wanted to review some other things that we didn't go over yesterday that also has to do with the two witnesses. We actually read from verse 1 down to verse 6. But let's read that again quickly, and I want to just go over a couple of other things that also pertain to this as we're studying the two witnesses. And last night, as we talked about the two witnesses, I also mentioned to you that the two witnesses are the two tables of the covenant. Let me just make this clear. The two tables of the covenant are the two witnesses. The two tables of the covenant represent the spirit and character of the Father. The spirit and character, especially the spirit of the Father, is what actuates or what empowers every prophet. Testing 1, 2, 3. Do you understand what I just said? The spirit of the Father actually actuates or gives power to every prophet. That means every prophet is representing, every prophet that preaches by the Spirit of Yah is representing the two tables of the covenant. Do you understand what I just said? So whenever any prophet is speaking, they're always representing the two tables of the covenant. When the Messiah came to the earth, he became the word that was made flesh. He himself became the two witnesses by himself because he himself is representing the tables of the covenant or the character and spirit of the Father. Does that make sense, everyone? See, I know people are always looking at two individuals, and I understand, like I said, I understand how you would get that because it appears like two individuals. But no, the two tables of the covenant are the two witnesses because they are a witness or a testimony, or they testify about the character of the Father. It is these two witnesses that are under attack by the earth constantly. It is these two witnesses that have been under attack by Satan since the earth was created and our father Adam fell. He has, even before that, when he was in heaven, it was these two witnesses he was attacking. Because when you attack the two witnesses, you are attacking the Father. Does that make sense, brothers and sisters? And when you attack the Father, you are not only offending the Father, but you are offending the whole heavenly universe. You are offending the angel. You are offending Messiah. You are offending every person that is in harmony with the Father when you attack the Father. And as we can see when we're looking at that, the entire planet Earth today is on a mass attack of the Father. The entire planet. Because the entire planet Earth today are worshiping other gods. They're following other laws. They are not giving honor to the Father. Therefore, they are attacking the Father and attacking his character. And Messiah said, if they have persecuted me, they will persecute you also. So we know what's coming. By simple obedience to the commandments of the word of the Yah, we can expect to be persecuted by simple obedience. We don't have to actually go out, and we're not going to bomb anything or shoot anybody or protest in anybody's street, right? We don't have to do that. All we have to do is show obedience to our Father by obeying his commandments, and we obey his commandments by receiving of the same spirit that actuates all the prophets. That is the spirit of the Father. Does that make sense, brothers and sisters? And that, brothers and sisters, that is what the faith of Yahushua is. That's what the testimony of Jesus is, or the testimony of Yahushua, which is the spirit of prophecy. It is the Father's spirit of righteousness that causes the individual that received it to keep the commandments of Yah. That is why the Bible says, these here is the patience of the saints, we read this morning. Here are they that keep the commandments of Yahweh and the faith of Yahushua, because the faith of Yahushua is the righteousness of the Father. That's what we read. Isn't that true? Let's take a look at that. Just want to make sure we're all on the same page. We understand that the faith of the Messiah, is the righteousness of the Father. See, somebody said, well, what does it mean, faith of Messiah? See, it's not faith in Messiah. This is his faith. This is how he lives. This is what he lives by. This is what he is representing. And he is representing the righteousness of his Father. Again, everybody with me so far? Everybody got that? Is that pretty clear? I just want to make that as clear as possible, because that is the centerpiece of victory. That is the centerpiece of victory. Listen carefully, over all our sin. That is the centerpiece of victory over everything Satan will throw at us. It is the centerpiece of victory over this earth and the Babylonian kingdom and everything associated with it. Okay, let's look at this. Let's give a couple of examples. Let's look first in Romans chapter 3. Romans chapter 3. Well, first let's look at, before we do that, let's look at the definition of the gospel again, just, because we're talking about the revelation of the Messiah, which the Father gave unto him, which is associated very closely with the gospel. Is that correct? You understand what I'm saying? So this prophecy of revelation is associated very carefully with the gospel. And one of the reasons people do not understand the book of Revelation is very simple. They do not understand what the gospel is. I mean, it sounds crazy, doesn't it? They don't understand the gospel. You say, what? I mean, everybody knows the gospel is the good news. It's the good news of Jesus. That's the gospel. Is that what it is? Is that what the scripture says? Let's see what the scripture says. Romans chapter 1. Romans chapter 1. I'm going to read from verse 16 and I'm going to read verse 17. Romans chapter 1, verse 16 and 17 defines the gospel for us. So we don't even have to guess. We don't have to give no esoteric or abstract meaning of what we think it is. It says it right there. Romans chapter 1, Romans 1, verses 16 and 17. Romans chapter 1, verses, we're going to go to chapter 3. I confused you. It's all right. Romans chapter 3 we'll go to in a minute. But Romans chapter 1, verses 16 and 17, the gospel definition according to the Bible, let's take a look at it. For I am not ashamed, the Apostle Shaul writes, of the gospel of Messiah. Okay, well, what is it? For it is the power of Yahweh unto salvation to everyone that believeth, to the Yahudim, the Israelite Jew first, and also to the Greek or the Gentile. For therein is the righteousness of Yahweh revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, the just shall live by faith. So the gospel is the power of Yah unto salvation, because therein is his righteousness revealed. The gospel of Yahushua, the Messiah, is the revealing of the righteousness of his Father unto salvation. Does that make sense? Everybody with me? You following what I'm saying? I mean, you catching that? I mean, that's much more solid, isn't it? That's much more solid than, well, it's the good news of Jesus. I mean, right? Isn't that much more solid than that? Isn't it much more definitive? Isn't it, you know what I'm saying? It's not anything you gotta guess about or anything you say, well, this is what I think the gospel is. No, no, no. It's right there in the scriptures for us to see. And the book of Revelation is based on the revealing of the Messiah who is revealing his Father's righteousness. Romans chapter 3. We just warming up. We getting warmed up as we get into back into Revelation chapter 11 today. But we need this little backdrop. The Most High gave me this morning to give to the people. This little backdrop. I'm just a teacher, a vessel of the Most High to be used to show forth the two witnesses in the Father's righteousness. And hopefully we inspire the listeners, all you listening, to also receive the Father's righteousness so that you also can be witnesses to the Father's righteousness. Praise the Most High. Yeah. Romans chapter 3. Romans chapter 3. Notice what it says. Romans chapter 3. We're going to begin. Romans chapter 3. We're going to begin at verse 19. And we're going to read from verse 19. We're going to read from verse 19. Let's see, man, there's so much here. Where do I want to stop? I don't know. Let me see. From verse 19, we're going to read down to, let's see. Let's make the point here. Verse 19, we're going to read down to verse 31. Why not? Let's go from verse 19 to verse 31 of Romans chapter 3. Again, we're talking about the righteousness of the Most High, the faith of the Messiah. Now, we know that whatsoever the law said, is said to them who are under the law, that every mouth may be stopped and all the world may become guilty before Yahweh. Therefore, by the deeds of the law, there shall no flesh be justified in his sight. For by the law is the knowledge of sin. But now the righteousness of Yahweh without the law is manifested, being witnessed by the law and the prophets. Watch this. Even the righteousness of Yahweh, which is by faith of Yahweh Shai Mashiach. Notice it says right there, even the righteousness of Yahweh, which is by faith of, and it says Jesus Christ, or by faith of Yahweh Shai Messiah for us Hebrews, unto all and upon all them that believe, for there is no difference. For all have sinned and come short of the glory of Yahweh, being justified freely by his grace through the redemption that is in Messiah Yahweh Shai, whom Yah have sent forth to be a propitiation through faith in his blood. To what? To declare his righteousness for the remission of sins that are past through the forbearance of Yahweh. To declare, I say, at this time, his righteousness, that he might be just and the justifier of them which believe in Messiah Yahushua. Where is boasting then? It is excluded. By what law? Of works? Nay, but by the law of faith. Therefore, we conclude that a man is justified by faith without the deeds of the law. Is he the Most High of the Yahudim only? Is he not also of the Gentiles? Yes, of the Gentiles also, seeing it is one Elohim which shall justify the circumcision by faith and the uncircumcision through faith. Do we then make void the law through faith? Yah forbid. Yea, we establish the law. Yeah, brothers and sisters, they always trying to say this. They use this chapter to try to say, well, he's doing away with the law. There's no more law. It's not talking about that. He's continually telling you that you are being justified. Do you see it in there? He's continually talking about being justified and justification. What is that? That is to be declared innocent. To be declared innocent. There is no obedience that a guilty person, there is no obedience that a guilty person can render that will take away the stain of their sin. There is no obedience that a murderer can render that will take away the stain of the murder he committed. Do you understand what I'm saying? There's no obedience that an adulterer can now give that will take away the stain of the adultery. There is no obedience that a person that's a liar can now give that'll take away the guilt of being a liar or change all the lies that they have told. But through the Messiah and his sacrifice for the sins of his people, the Most High places the sins on the Messiah and declares the sinner through the blood of the Messiah innocent. And that's why he says, where is boasting? It is excluded. Because we are declared innocent, not because we did right, but because Messiah did right and we trusted in him. And we're trusting, and in trusting in him, we're trusting our Father's righteousness. Praise the Most High. Yeah, you're following me? You're with that this morning? You feeling that? Praise the Most High. Notice also, he says he will justify the circumcision through faith. Wait a minute. And the I'm sorry. Let me make sure I get this correct. Let me not twist this. Seeing then there is one Elohim, one God, which shall justify the circumcision by faith and the uncircumcision through faith. Wait a minute. Why does he say that? Why does he say the Hebrews, the Israelite, is by faith, but the Gentile? See, when he says circumcision, he's talking about the Israelite. When he says uncircumcision, he's talking about the Gentile. Because in the New Testament, they call the Gentiles the uncircumcision because they were uncircumcised. They call the Hebrew or the Israelite the circumcision because all their males, by virtue of being a Hebrew, are circumcised. So he said he's going to justify or declare innocent the Hebrews by faith, but the Gentiles through faith. Why? Why does he say that? Because as a Hebrew, the Messiah belongs to you. He comes from your blood. He comes from your family. He's one of your cousins. So by that Messiah, through faith by that Messiah, you are receiving the righteousness of your father. You are Abraham's seed. But if you're a Gentile, you're not Abraham's seed. You're coming in through the nation to the Messiah. You're coming in through the nation to the Messiah. You catching me? You can't just get to the Messiah without coming through the nation. This ain't no Greek gospel. This ain't no Italian gospel. You got to come through the nation of Israel. You're not making no new religion called Christianity where you skipping over the nation. No, you come through faith. You following me? Testing 1, 2, 3. You following me? Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay. That is the gospel. That is the power of the gospel. That is the righteousness of the gospel, which is the righteousness of the Father. That's right. You coming through the nation. You're not just walking in and say, I'm going to take the Messiah and go back to my Gentile life where I came from. No, no. You get grafted in among us. Isn't that what it says? You get grafted in among us. You don't have your own thing where you leading your own thing. You come among us, the Hebrews, and you get grafted in. That's how you get this thing. And then you receive the righteousness of the Father. Don't start talking this. See, that's how you come up with Christianity. See? But anyway, y'all catching it. You're catching it. One more witness. I just like this witness. That's why. Notice Philippians chapter 3. Same thing. Philippians chapter 3. And there are other witnesses, but we're just going to use these two for now. Because mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses. Here's another one. Philippians chapter 3. Philippians chapter 3. I'm going to begin Philippians chapter 3. I'm going to begin at verse 7, and I'm going to read down to verse 14 of Philippians chapter 3. This is also talking about the righteousness of the Father, justification by faith, and the true gospel, which is the faith of Messiah. Notice what it says. But what things were gained to me, those I counted loss for Messiah. Yea, doubtless, and I count all things but loss for the excellency of the knowledge of Messiah Yahushua, my master, for whom I have suffered the loss of all things, and do count them but dung, that I might win Messiah, and be found in him, not having mine own righteousness, which is of the law, but that which is through the faith of Messiah, the righteousness which is of Yahweh by faith, that I may know him and the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of his suffering, being made conformable unto his death, if by any means I might attain unto the resurrection of the dead. Not as though I had already attained, either were already perfect, but I follow after, if that I may apprehend that for which also I am apprehended of Messiah Yahushua. Brethren, I count not myself to have apprehended, but one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind, and reaching forth unto those things which are before, I press toward the mark of the prize of the high calling of Yahweh in Messiah Yahushua. Oh, yes. Messiah Yahushua represents our high calling. To be like him in character and spirit, to reflect the Messiah perfectly, is to receive and reach the high calling of the Father, because the Father set forth the Messiah to be our example in all things, including righteousness. Praise the Most High Yah. That is why it is called the revelation of the Messiah. It is called the revelation of him because he is a perfect representation of his Father's righteousness, which is why the Bible says very plainly, it is the revelation of Yahushua Messiah, which Yah gave unto him to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. That's exactly right. Messiah is the measuring stick, and Messiah is the measuring stick along with the covenant, because Messiah is the living, breathing version of the two witnesses. Does that make sense, brothers and sisters? He's the living, breathing version of the two witnesses, and everybody's going to be judged by the two witnesses. Praise the Most High. There you go. There you go. Y'all catching it? See, all the confusion gets pushed away when you're looking at the truth of the word, when your only object and goal is to give glory to the Father. When your only object and goal is to give glory to the Father, all other things gets pushed away. All other things gets pushed away. Okay? When your only object and goal is to give glory to the Father, all other things gets pushed away. Praise the Most High Yah. All right. So now with that backdrop, one more. I want to look at one thing now. Let's go to Revelation chapter 11. And I want to show you something from what we read yesterday. Revelation chapter 11. I want to start verse 1 and 2, just as we talked about yesterday. But I want to add a little twist that's going to help us later on in the chapter. It's going to help us later on in the chapter, okay? So let's look at Revelation chapter 11, verse 1 and 2. And there was given me a reed like unto a rod. And the angel stood saying, Rise and measure the temple of Yahweh and the altar and them that worship therein. But the court which is without the temple leave out and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles. And the holy city shall they tread under foot 42 months. Now, wait a minute. Notice what it said. Remember now, we're talking sanctuary language here. The whole book of Revelation, you have to understand, is talking sanctuary language. You say, what do you mean by sanctuary language? I'm talking about language that has to do with the heavenly sanctuary. I'm talking about situations and circumstances that have to do with the high priestly ministry of the Messiah, from which Aaron was given, the Lawayim were given, the sons of Sadak were given a priestly ministry, from which they were just copies of the ultimate high priest of the tribe of Judah, which is Messiah. And so we're talking about things that are happening in the sanctuary from the beginning of the book, almost all the way to the end of the book. So here we are in chapter 11. Of course, it talks about the temple and the altar and them which worship therein. Let's talk about that for a minute. The temple, which is the place where the sanctuary is, in the temple of Yah. The altar, which is an altar of incense. Remember, there's an altar of incense. There's two altars. We're going to talk about that. But what we're talking about here is the altar, because remember, when we started the 7 trumpets, the angel was taking incense off the altar of incense. Remember that? Angel was taking incense off the altar of incense, and the incense from the altar represented what? Remember, the incense off the altar represented what? What did it represent, brothers and sisters? It represented the prayers of the saints, not everybody's prayers, but the prayers of the saints. Is that right? Because you remember now, the angel took some incense and he put it in a censer and he threw it to the earth, because what we're reading about in Revelation through in the 7 trumpets are about a bunch of people whose prayers are not being heard by the Most High. There you go. So now we're talking about here the altar, and he said, them that worship therein. So he's measuring the temple for righteousness. He's measuring the altar of incense covered in gold for righteousness. And he's measuring the people that worshiped whose prayers are being heard for righteousness. Does that make sense? Everybody follow me so far? Okay. So he's measuring it. He's measuring it in judgment for righteousness. He's looking for perfect righteousness. And make no mistake, the Father demands perfect obedience to his commandments and perfect righteousness. Everybody got that? Make no mistake. The Father demands perfect obedience and perfect righteousness. And the only way, again, I just want to reiterate, the only way that Israelites as a nation can render that perfect obedience and righteousness to the commands of the Father is by the Spirit of the Father dwelling within them. The Spirit of the two witnesses. Huh? The Spirit of the two witnesses. Now, notice what it said. It said, the court which is without the temple, leave out and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentile, and the holy city shall they tread underfoot 42 months or 3.5 years. Now, wait a minute. It said outside the temple, there's a court outside the temple, a courtyard, if you will. He said, leave that. That's given to the Gentiles. Why is that? You're going to see. Let's look at Hebrews. Hebrews. This is going to be deep. I'm telling you right now. It's going to be deep. So you got to watch very carefully. Follow me closely. Pay close attention, okay? Testing 1, 2, 3. Make sure you're paying close attention. Follow me closely. This is going to be deep. I just want to let you know I'm warning you. Hebrews chapter 13. I'm going to start in Hebrews chapter 13. I'm going to start at verse 8. And I'm going to go down from verse 8. I'm going to go down to verse 15. From verse 8 to 15. Notice what it says. Yahushua Messiah, the same yesterday and today and forever. Be not carried about with divers and strange doctrines. For it is a good thing that the heart be established with grace, not with meats which have not profited them, that have been occupied therein. We have, watch this, we have an altar, whereof they have no right to eat which serve the tabernacle. For the bodies of those beasts whose blood is brought into the sanctuary by the high priest for sin are burned without the camp. Wait a minute. Wherefore Yahushua also, that he might sanctify the people with his own blood, suffered without the gate. Let us go forth therefore unto him without the camp, bearing his reproach. For we have no continuing city, but we seek one to come. By him, therefore, let us offer the sacrifice of praise to Yahweh continually, that is, the fruit of our lips, giving thanks to his name. Whoa. So wait, let's talk about this. Verse 11, did you notice what it says? It said, the bodies of those beasts whose blood is brought into the sanctuary by the high priest for sin are burned without the camp. What does that mean? So once the animal is killed and they take off the parts that they can eat, namely the shoulder, the breast, the thighs of the animal, the rest of the animal, the inward parts, are burned outside of the camp. So as the animal is sacrificed at an altar of sacrifice, its blood is taken into the temple of the sanctuary in the holy place, and then the most holy place eventually. And the body is burned outside the camp. It's burned outside in the court. Does that make sense, brothers? It's burned outside the temple in the court. Okay, okay, everybody follow me so far? Right? Now he compares that sacrificial animal to the ultimate sacrifice, the Messiah, and he says, wherefore Yahushua also, that he might sanctify the people with his own blood, suffered without the gate. What does that mean? Was Messiah killed inside the walls of Jerusalem, or was he killed outside the walls of Jerusalem? Talk to me. Where was he killed? Was he killed inside the walls of Jerusalem or outside? That's right. He was killed outside the walls of Jerusalem. He was the sacrificed animal outside. And whose hands were the instruments that the enemy Asatan used to put our Messiah to death? Whose hands actually put him down on that cross, nailed him to it, and killed him? It was the Romans. It was the Romans. Now, the Yahudim, our fathers, were responsible for putting him in that position. But it was the Romans that actually killed him. Does that make sense? Y'all follow me? I hear what you're saying. It was our fathers, and it was for our fathers' sins that he ended up out there. But who actually killed him? Who did the act of the murder? It was the Romans. It was the Gentiles. So now, wait a minute. With that in mind, let's go back to Revelation chapter 11 again and look at verse 2 again. Okay, notice what it says. Revelation 11:2. But the court which is without the temple leave out and measure it not, for it is given unto what? The Gentiles, and the holy city shall they tread underfoot 42 months. So the holy city representing the righteousness of Yah, representing his bride, representing us, they're going to tread us underfoot for 3.5 years. As the Messiah will also suffer outside the camp, and we are outside the camp. Remember what it said in Hebrews? It said, let us also go outside the camp. We are outside the camp. Where is the camp? The camp is the holy city. Y'all follow me? The camp is the holy city. It is well, for us, it's the New Jerusalem. Let's see that. Revelation chapter 20. Revelation chapter 20. Verse 9, Revelation 20, verse 9. Notice what it says, Revelation 29. And they went up on the breadth of the earth, and what did they? They compassed the camp of the saints about, and the beloved city, and fire came down from Yahweh out of heaven and devoured them. So the camp is representing of the holy city. He said, leave that's for us. But outside of that, that is the world. That is the Babylonian system that which we operate. See, we are outside the camp right now. Are we not? We're on the earth right now. We're in the Babylonian system right now. We're outside the camp. We're in the area of the Gentiles. See, if we were in Israel, if we were in the nation of Israel, there'll be no homosexuals walking around the streets, hugging each other, men kissing each other. Not in the nation. Not in the nation. There wouldn't be no women with tattoos over their face licking each other up. That wouldn't be happening in the nation. That's not going to happen in the nation. But we are not in the nation. We are in Babylon. And so we can't change what Babylon does. All we can do is what the Most High instructed us to do, which is to keep his commandments, statutes, and judgments in the midst of Babylon, the way Daniel, Ananiah, Azariah, Mikael kept his commandments in Babylon. Everybody following? We're outside the camp. So it's telling us that for 3.5 years, we're going to be outside the camp. The Gentiles going to be stepping all over the truth. And we know, remember now, let me just remind you, the 7 trumpets are representative of those people whose prayers are not being heard. So the 144,000 will bring a message, and the majority of the planet will step all over the message. 3.5 years. The message over that 3.5 year period is a warning. It's a warning about plagues that are about to fall. You follow me? It's a warning. It's a warning to the earth to worship the creator honor his commandments. And really what it is, it's a call to his chosen to come out from among the Gentiles, right? It's a call of his chosen to come out from among the Gentiles. Let's look at it. Revelation chapter 18. Revelation chapter 18. I'm going to read. We're going to study this again in great detail as we get to there. But for now, let's look at Revelation chapter 18. And let's read from verse 1 down to verse 4 of Revelation chapter 18. 1 to 4. Notice what it says. And after these things, I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, that ye receive not of her plagues. Yes, the Israelite nation, the 144,000, will be giving this message to the earth, to the people that are out here in the court, that are outside the camp. That's why he said, let us also go outside the camp like the Messiah did. So we're going to go outside. We're outside the camp. And the Most High is going to cause his righteous spirit to come upon us. And we're going to give a message to the people outside the camp. We're really doing is we're calling Israelites out from among the Babylonians. The Most High knows who his people are. And the Bible says he does. You know, the Bible says he knows those that are his. And he said, let them that nameth the name of the Messiah depart from iniquity. Isn't that what the scripture say? He said the Messiah, the master knows them that are his. And remember also, he prayed to the Father and he said, you know who you have chosen. Let them be in me as I am in you. Let them be in us, that we may be all one. That means all one in the spirit of the Father's righteousness. You see, brothers and sisters, you know, and I know that whenever you meet somebody that is just like you in terms of believing in the Father, trusting in the Father's righteousness, you have an immediate kinship with that person. You feel it. That's your brother. That's your sister. You know it. Because you have a oneness in the Father's spirit. Okay? So here, the court is representing the Babylonian system, the whole earth, and is not being measured. Why? Because it's already condemned. The wages of sin is death. No need to measure it. It cannot measure up. No need to measure it. The only ones that need to be measured are those of us going into the city. We need to be measured for righteousness and fitted for robes of perfect righteousness, which are going to be ours forever. Praise the Most High. Okay? Let me reiterate. So the two witnesses are representative of the two tables of the covenant, which is representing the Father's spirit of righteousness. That spirit enters into any person, and that person becomes a witness of the Father, which means they are witnesses of the two witnesses. They are representing the two witnesses. And I say unto you that the 144,000 will represent the Father's Spirit. Therefore, they are representing the two witnesses. Does that make sense? Is everybody with me? I know this sounds crazy to people that are leaning on Elijah and Moses, but I just want y'all to understand. And I wanted to break it down for you very plainly. We're going to need it, especially as we finish this chapter. We're going to need that knowledge. Okay? We're going to need to understand that knowledge. And brothers and sisters, as always, I really admonish you. Make these words not just something you understand theoretically. Make them a part of your life. Make it something that you use to overcome the things in this life. Are you understanding me? Don't let it be something that's just theoretical. When trial and tribulation or some situation comes upon you, don't fold, don't panic. Trust in the word of righteousness, brothers and sisters. Have some faith. Praise the Most High. let's continue. So now, Revelation chapter 11. We talked about this yesterday, but let's just read through it. We're going to read from verse 3 down to verse 6. Revelation chapter 11, excuse me, Revelation 11 from verses 3 to 6. Revelation chapter 11, verses 3 to 6. And I will give power unto my two witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. These are the two olive trees and the two candlesticks standing before Yahweh of the earth. And if any man will hurt them, fire proceeded out of their mouth and devoured their enemies. And if any man will hurt them, he must in this manner be killed. These have power to shut heaven that it rain not in the days of their prophecy, and have power over waters to turn them to blood, and to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they will. That's right. So when the Most High put his spirit on a prophet like Elijah, fire can come down out the sky. When he put his spirit on a prophet like Moses, he can lift up that rod. It can be turned into a serpent. It can cause waters to turn to blood. It can drop 7 last plagues on the Egyptians. When he put it in the 144,000, he can cause his spirit to rise up in them and cause them to give a message of warning to the earth to call all his people out, and they will cause the word to come and rain 7 last plagues on the entire planet Earth. Yes, they will. By the way, well, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but anyway, you understand that? Praise the Most High. I want to make sure you're with me every step for step. I don't want to lose you. There's a lot here. I want to make sure you're with me. That's exactly what it is. The two witnesses are a representation of the power of the Father. They're a representation of his power of righteousness. And we know, we already read how his power can cause a man to receive salvation. Is the power of Yah unto salvation through his righteousness. But we also are reading here, it is power to destroy those that try to destroy the earth. Is a power to destroy those that refuse to follow righteousness. It is the same power. He can bring plagues and he can bring salvation. Praise the Most High Yah. He can bring plagues and he can bring salvation. You see, brothers and sisters, people will say, and some, especially among the Gentiles, I've heard this. Well, he's kind of forcing us, right? So if we don't believe in him, he's going to kill us, right? If we don't follow him, he'll kill us. And in that way, they're trying to act like we're like the Christians or like the Muslims, right? See, like the Christians came all over the earth with that Catholicism, and anybody that didn't convert, they killed them, they tortured them. The same with Islam. Islam went running all over the Middle East, what is now called the Middle East, and in Africa, and whoever didn't convert was to be killed, right? That's how they spread their gospel. That's not what we're talking about here. That is not what we're talking about. What the Most High has shown us is the natural consequence of sin is death. The natural consequence of sin is death. The only way for us to continue to live, listen to me very carefully. The only way for us to continue to live is to continue to receive the Father's Spirit. And the Father also causes those that live forever to continually partake of his tree of life. The tree of life will keep us eternally alive and eternally youthful. As he causes us to eat of that tree, we will continually be living and we will never die nor have any taint of decay at all. You understand? And so he will only allow those to partake of his tree that are obedient to his covenant. Therefore, if you are disobedient to his covenant, there is but one way for you. You cannot continue in the way of life. You will die. And not only that, you will be an agent of death, as Asatan is. You'll be an agent of death to anything that touches you. You are defiled. So therefore, for the good of the universe, he will destroy those that have no access to the tree of life. Because if he was allowed them to have access to the tree of life, sin would be immortalized, and it's not going to be immortalized. It's not going to be immortalized. Righteousness is immortalized, and the tree is a tree of righteousness. Praise the Most High God. Now, recall, brothers and sisters, how that our fathers were in Egypt. Our father Jacob went down in Egypt with the 70 souls that went with him. After Joseph went there first and set up the situation for them, as he became first a slave, then a prime minister. And he set up the situation for his father Jacob and the 70 souls, which are his relatives, his cousins, his brothers, and those that were servants with them. They came down into Egypt, and we know what happened. Our fathers were down there, and over the course of a few centuries, the situation changed from a favorable situation, because the whole Egyptian nation owed its continuing existence to Joseph. Why? Because Joseph was carrying the two witnesses with him. He was carrying the spirit of the Father, and he was showing them what was getting ready to come upon them, right? And then through that, they were able to survive one of the worst famines that ever hit the earth. They were able to survive. So they owed Joseph their very existence, but then they forgot and they went back to their heathen ways, the sons of Ham did, and they enslaved our fathers. Also, our fathers forgot and started worshiping the gods of Egypt and started acting like they were actually citizens of Egypt instead of understanding who they were. And the Most High allowed them to go into slavery. And then he called forth a man, he called forth a prophet, he called forth Moses with his spirit on him. And Moses came with the spirit of the Father, representing the two witnesses. Moses came with the spirit of the covenant and told them who they were. Told them to go back to keeping the Sabbath and stop worshiping the sun. And they started doing it. And then Pharaoh and them wanted to kill them. Pharaoh and them wanted to kill them. And then what happened? Then all of a sudden the plagues came upon the Egyptians. And the people were delivered. And our father, when they were in Egypt, if you recall, they never had to fight with the Egyptians. Did you notice that? They didn't have to form any army and fight with the Egyptians. As a matter of fact, if you recall, Moses, believing that he was called to lead the people out of Egypt, he killed an Egyptian. Remember? He killed an Egyptian, but he did the wrong thing, because the Most High did not have him kill the Egyptian. It wasn't for him to kill the Egyptian. That wasn't the way we were going to be delivered. So he had to have Moses leave for 40 years so Moses could understand, listen, this is the way we're going to do it. Not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit. Huh? We're not going to do it that way. We're going to do it this way. Okay, Moses comes back and the people are led out by the spirit of the Father. Through the Messiah, they're led out and the plagues falling on the Egyptians. You remember that? Egypt represented a government that was against the Most High's people. Y'all follow me? He was trying to enslave the Most High's chosen people, and the Most High delivered them. Okay, we're in spiritual Egypt right now, aren't we not? Aren't we? Isn't Babylon, spiritual Babylon, also spiritual Egypt, in the sense that it oppresses the Most High's chosen people? Does not spiritual Babylon act like spiritual Egypt, in that if it wasn't for the chosen people building and working as slaves, the Babylonian economy would never be what it is now? Isn't it true that they oppress us and enslave us and try to keep us under them? Isn't that the way it works in this Babylonian Egyptian system? Yes. Now, with that in mind, let's look at Revelation chapter 11 and let's look at verse 7. Revelation chapter 11 and verse 7. Notice what it says. Now, we said already that the 144,000 will preach a word about the coming plagues for 3.5 years. For 3.5 years. Notice verse 7. And when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascended out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them and shall overcome them and kill them. Ooh. two witnesses get killed? How do you kill the two witnesses? We're going to talk about the beast that rise up out of the bottomless pit in a moment. But how does one go about actually killing the two witnesses? How do you kill the two witnesses? How do you do that? Well, you're not killing the 144,000. How do you actually kill the two witnesses? How do you kill the Father's spirit? How do you quench it? You quench it when you disobey, when you purposely get rid of the covenant. You purposely cast it aside. You purposely say, we are following another God aside from this one. Take this one away from us. We don't want it. You following what I'm saying? You remember in one of the Messiah's parables, at the end of the parable, he said, bring those men before me that refuse to have me rule over them and slay them before me. Remember that? He said, those men that refuse to have me rule them, bring them and slay them before me. That's what he said in one of his parables. Right? So what is going on here? Law, we're going to talk more about this in Revelation 13. But this, brothers and sisters, is where laws are passed. Now, laws are passed against the covenant. Okay, laws are going to be passed against the covenant that try to force the covenant keepers, the commandment keepers, to follow one of these man-made institutions, Christianity, Islam, or Judaism. You're going to be forced into one of these man-made institutions, Christianity, Islam, or Judaism. You're going to be forced into one of those. They might let you get away with being a Buddhist. They might let you get away with being a Hindu, but it's really the three major ones are going to be Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. You got to be in one of those or you're not down. You're going to have a problem. We're going to have a problem. Okay? So we're going to be cut off from earthly support. We're going to have finished our message. And then they're going to kill us in the sense that they're going to do away. Because you know what? The warning, the very warning that the 144,000 give, that the call that is made to come out, right, is a call that's made before plagues fall. So they're saying, come out from among them because the Most High is getting ready to rain some plagues on them. Now remember when Noah was preaching, and he was telling the people that a flood was going to come. And the people didn't believe him. And the people were doing everything they did normally, and they were not listening to the prophet that was called by the Most High to preach a word that the whole earth was going to be swallowed up in the flood. Remember that? And then Noah was called into the ark with his family. It was Noah and his brothers and sisters. Well, these were not his brothers and sisters, these were his sons and daughters. They were called into the ark, and the door closed, and for an entire 7 days, nothing happened. They were in the ark. Whole bunch of bleeping animals, bleeping and mooing, and all the sounds that animals make were inside the ark with them. And they were in there, and nothing happened. People must have started laughing. They must have started saying how big of a fool this man is. Even though they saw the power of righteousness on him, even though he didn't close the door of the ark, it was closed by the Most High himself. Even that, they saw it, but they started feeling all comfortable and they started celebrating until that first drop of water came. Until that first explosion out of the earth of volcanic activity of water. Then they realized, but they realized too late. Same thing here. So now, when they finish their testimony, the beast that ascendeth up out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them and shall overcome them and kill them, because he's going to cause them to put to silence. But it's not really him putting them to silence. The Most High is saying, you finished. That's it. You've done your duty. That's it. Now we're going to be fleeing. Now they're going to want to kill us. We're going to be fleeing. We're going to be in different places. They're going to be coming after us. Wait a minute. What is this beast that rises up out of the bottomless pit? I mean, he talked about it as if we know who it was. Well, let's take a look at this. First, let's look at the beast itself. What does the word beast represent? What does the word beast represent in Bible prophecy? What is a beast in Bible prophecy? What does the beast represent? That's right. It represents a kingdom or nation. Very good, very good, very good. Let's get some scripture witness for that. Daniel, back to prophet Daniel, chapter 7. Let's get some scripture witness for that. Daniel chapter 7. Daniel chapter 7. Let's start at verse. Let's start at verse 2 and 3 of Daniel chapter 7. We're looking at what a beast is in prophecy. Daniel chapter 7, verse 2 and 3. Notice what it says. And Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heaven strove upon the great sea, and four beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. So he sees these four beasts, and he sees they're different animals. A beast in the Bible, you all know, is an animal, right? If you look up the word beast, it says animal. It's some sort of animal, right? A beast is some sort of animal. So in Bible prophecy, these four animals rose up. And then he wants to know what these beasts are. Who are they? What does that represent? Okay, notice Daniel chapter 7, verse 17. Let's read verse 17 and 18 of Daniel chapter 7, verse 17 and 18. Okay, notice what it says, Daniel 7, 17 and 18. These great beasts, which are four kings which shall arise out of the earth. Okay, kings or kingdoms, same thing, coming four kingdoms out of the earth. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. So in this sense, a beast is a kingdom or a nation that comes up. So so we know now the beast that is talking about in Revelation is a kingdom. Okay, everybody see that? So Revelation 11, when it says a beast, is talking about a kingdom. Okay, so it says this kingdom rises out of the bottomless pit. Okay, let me ask you all a question, very simple question, which anybody can find out for themselves very easily. In the Bible, what does the pit represent? When they talk about the pit in the Bible, what is it that is talking about? When it calls and it says about a pit, that's right. In the Bible, the grave is called what? The pit. That's exactly right. The bottomless pit is the bottomless grave. So a kingdom rises out of the bottomless grave. Well, let's take a look now. We saw a beast rise up out of the bottomless grave in Revelation chapter 9. Let's take a look in Revelation chapter 9, and let's look at verse 1 and 2. Revelation chapter 9, verse 1 and 2. Under the fifth angel, we saw a similar situation. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven onto the earth. And to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And he opened up the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. So the angel that fell from heaven, we know, is Asatan. He was given the key to the bottomless grave, then, and then and he opened it up, and smoke rose out and caused the sun and the moon and everything to be dark. Or we read where whenever the sun and moon are darkened, that means there's spiritual darkness. That means the righteous and Most High is not seen. That means His truth is not seen. His light is not seen. It's spiritual darkness. So when He opened up this pit, this grave, this came out. So where did he bring forth this falsehood, this foolishness? He brings it out of the earth as we now know it. So the bottomless pit is a representation of the kingdom of the earth that is being run by these beasts. Are you following me? Everybody follow me? Testing 1, 2, 3. It is the kingdom of this earth that is being run by these beasts, by these governments. So what is it saying then in Revelation chapter 11 and verse 7? What is it saying then? He said, when they have finished their testimony or their witness, the kingdom or the government kingdom that ascended out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them and shall overcome them and kill them. So the devil's going to have a government that's going to make war with the 144,000 and with their message and with the Father's righteousness and with the spirit of the two witnesses. And he's going to overcome them, at least temporarily. He's going to think so. Just like the people that did not get inside Noah's ark thought that was over and done with, didn't they? They said, oh, that's over and done with. That crazy fool's inside the ark. We probably got to pry him out, or we're going to let him die in there with all them animals, right? But no, that wasn't the case. So now they're going to overcome and kill us, which means they're going to silence us, which means what's going to happen? They're going to change the laws so that you cannot be an Israelite. You cannot follow the Bible according to your conscience. No, they'll claim that you can, but you have to be in one of the established churches, one of the entities that are allowed, the entities which be Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, 3 man-made religions. You have to be in one of these man-made religions. Now, for the Israelite, on several fronts, this is a problem. For the Israelite, this is a problem. Why would this be a problem? Because Israelites only worship the Most High Yah, the God of the covenant. We do not worship man-made religions, because in worshiping man-made religions, we are being idol worshipers, because we're worshiping an idol, because we're worshiping something in the image of man. Does that make sense, brothers and sisters? We're not worshiping in the image of Yah. We're worshiping in the image of man. The 2 witnesses, the tables of the covenant, are in the image of the Father. But everything else, everything that goes against the 2 witnesses, are in the image of man. Does that make sense? Are you following me? Am I being clear? Are you catching this? So the 144,000 will give a message. At the end of that message, the earth is going to try to kill them. Okay? They're going to chase us out. They're going to change the laws. We're not going to be able to buy or sell. We will have no earthly support. And they're going to say, away with them. They're done now. We would have warned them about plagues. The plagues hadn't fallen yet, but we're warned them about it. And then we're gone. We're out in the wilderness. We're in deserts. We're in mountains. We're in jungles. We're in different desolate places. And we're spread throughout the earth. And they're saying, good riddance. Good riddance. Glad they out of our hair. We ain't got to hear that foolishness anymore. Huh? But then things change. Let's look at that. Revelation chapter 11, verse 8 and 9 and 10. Revelation chapter 11, verse 8 and 9 and 10. Notice what it says. And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which is spiritually called Sodom in Egypt, where also our master was crucified. That's outside the gate. That's outside. That's the outer court. You see what I'm saying? That's the outer court. You follow me? And they of the people and kindreds and tongues of the nations shall see their dead bodies 3 days and a half, and shall not suffer their dead bodies to be put in graves. And they that dwell upon the earth shall rejoice over them and make merry, and shall send gifts one to another, because these 2 prophets tormented them that dwelt on the earth. So because of our message, the message we're going to give by the Spirit of the Father, it's a torment. The message is a balm of Gilead to those that receive it, but to those that reject it, it's a torment. So that you can rejoice when you hear the truth, because you're people of the truth. But people that are not people of the truth, people that believe the lie, that will receive the strong delusion, the truth makes them sick. It torments them, torments their conscience. It bothers them. They don't want to hear it anymore. You hear what I'm saying? Now, let me admit right here, let me give you all a disclaimer. Akabar Sadat gonna give you a disclaimer. Let me give you a disclaimer. Akabar Sadat gonna give you a disclaimer. You ready? Here's my disclaimer. I know that there's a 3.5 year period upon which the 144,000 are preaching this message. I'm not sure if there's an additional 3.5 year period upon which we're on the run. I'm not sure if we're going to be on the run for 3.5 years. I don't know. Or if this is the same 3.5 years that we preach the message and we're on the run. So either we're on the run 3.5 years or we're on the run for 7 years. I mean, I don't know. You hear what I'm saying? So I'm just telling you up front, I'm not sure about that. And I admit it freely, and I don't want to guess. So therefore, I'm not going to say anything about it. See, this is one of those situations where I say, I'm a teacher of the word, but listen, if I told you I understood everything in the scripture, I'd be lying to you. There's a lot that the Most High has shown me, and I reveal what he has shown me. What has not been shown to me yet, I cannot yet reveal. But we will know by and by. I will say that. Praise the Most High, Yah. And there's other brothers out here studying and studying the same thing, and maybe the Most High will reveal to them. Okay, but this is what I'm saying. So here from verse 9, it says, and they of the people and kindreds and tongues and nations shall see their dead bodies 3 days and a half, and shall not suffer their bodies to be put in graves. In other words, they're so happy that we're gone, they're not even giving us a proper sentence. They're not even saying, well, you know, it was good, something good about it. No, they're saying, man, leave them in the street to rot. We're glad they're dead. Just get out of our face. They're gone. But wait a minute. But then something happens and they start sending gifts. They're happy. We don't have to hear this anymore. The earth is going to be good. Everybody's either in one of the 3 religions. There's perfect harmony on the earth because there's one of the 3 religions: Christianity, Judaism, or Islam. And everybody's at peace. And there's going to be no more war. And there's going to be peace. And you remember what the Bible said, when they shall say peace and safety. Remember that? When they shall say peace and safety. Huh? Sudden destruction. That's right. Sudden destruction comes. Notice again. Revelation chapter 11. Let's look at verse 11 and verse 12. Revelation chapter 11, verse 11 and verse 12. Watch this. And after 3 days and a half, the spirit of life from Yahweh entered into them, and they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. And they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, come up hither. And they ascended up in heaven to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. What's that? What's that? Talk to me, brothers and sisters. See what's going on here. At the end of that time, the 144,000 are going to be vindicated. They're going to be justified. The Most High is going to vindicate them. These are my servants, and you guys try to mess with my servants. And now I'm getting ready to teach you what it's like when you mess with my servants. And you know what we're going to be saying. You know what we're going to be saying at that time. You know what we're going to be saying. The scripture even tells us what we're going to be saying at that time. It tells us what we're going to be saying. Notice what it says in Isaiah chapter 25. Isaiah chapter 25 is going to tell us what we're going to be saying at that time. Matter of fact, let's look at the end of chapter 24 and read into chapter 25. Then it's talking about the same time period, by the way. Isaiah 24 and 25 is talking about the same time period that we're reading about in Revelation chapter 11. Isn't it amazing how everything you read about in Revelation is in the prophets, right? Isn't that amazing? I shouldn't be amazed, but I am. Everything that we read about in the book of Revelation is already written in the prophets, isn't it? Already written in the prophets. Let's look at it then. Yeshaya already wrote about this. Notice again. Let's start at chapter 24. Let's start at chapter 24. Isaiah chapter 24. Isaiah 24. I'm going to start at verse 19. I'm going to start at verse 19. Isaiah 24. Verse 17 before you. Sorry about that. All right, so for verse 19, we're going to read from Isaiah 24, verse 19. And we're going to read down to go into chapter 25 and read the whole thing. Verse 12 verses of verse 25. From 7, you did it? Okay, good. Isha, thank you very much. Thank you, Isha. Praise the Most High, Yah. Isha Shama. Praise the Most High. All right, from verse 17, and we're going to read all the way down to chapter 25, those 12 verses, okay? Notice what it says. And remember Revelation 11. Notice we're coming right back to that. Fear and the pit and the snare are upon thee, O inhabitant of the earth. And it shall come to pass that he who fleeth from the noise of the fear shall fall into the pit. And he that cometh out of the midst of the pit shall be taken in the snare. For the windows from on high are open, and the foundations of the earth do shake. The earth is utterly broken down. The earth is clean dissolved. The earth is moved exceedingly. The earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard, and shall be removed like a cottage, and the transgression thereof shall be heavy upon it, and it shall fall and not rise again. And it shall come to pass in that day that Yahweh shall punish the host of the high ones that are on high, and the kings of the earth upon the earth, and they shall be gathered together as prisoners. Watch this now. And they shall be gathered together as prisoners are gathered in the pit, and shall be shut up in prison. And after many days they be visited. What's that? That's the first resurrection. See, the first resurrection, all the saints come up, but all the wicked are put in the graves. For the first resurrection. Blessed and holy is he that hath part in the first resurrection. On such the second death has no power, and they shall live and reign with Messiah 1,000 years. That's what this is talking about. You see, so it says, but the wicked are gathered together and they put in the pit. Y'all follow me? And they shall be there, and after 1,000 years, after many days, they shall be visited. There's a second resurrection. But this is the first resurrection. Then the moon shall be confounded, and the sun ashamed, when Yahweh of hosts shall reign in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem before his ancients gloriously. Chapter 25. O Yahweh, thou art my most high. I will exalt thee. I will praise thy name, for thou hast done wonderful things. Thy counsels of old are faithfulness and truth. For thou hast made of a city an heap, of a defense city a ruin, a palace of strangers to be no city. It shall never be built. Therefore shall the strong people glorify thee. The city of the terrible nations shall fear thee, for thou hast been a strength to the poor, a strength to the needy in distress, a refuge from the storm, a shadow from the heat, when the blast of the terrible ones is as a storm against the wall. Thou shalt bring down the noise of strangers as the heat in the dry place, even the heat with the shadow of a cloud. The branch of the terrible ones shall be brought low. And in this mountain shall Yahweh of hosts make unto all people a feast of fat things, a feast of wines on the leaves, of fat things full of marrow, of wines on the leaves well refined. And he will destroy in this mountain the face of the covering cast over all people, and the veil that is spread over all nations. He will swallow up death in victory. You see, that's the resurrection. That's the resurrection of the righteous. He will swallow up death in victory, and the Most High Yahweh will wipe away tears from off all faces, and the rebuke of his people shall he take away from off all the earth. And Yahweh has spoken it, and it shall be said in that day. See, this is what we're going to say. Lo, this is our Most High. We have waited for him, and he will save us. This is Yahweh. We have waited for him, and we will be glad and rejoice in his salvation. For in this mountain shall the hand of Yahweh rest, and Moab shall be trodden down under him, even as straw is trodden down for the dunghill. And he shall spread forth his hands in the midst of them, as he that swimmeth spreadeth forth his hands to swim. And he shall bring down their pride together with the spoils of their hands. And the fortress of the high fort of thy walls shall he bring down, lay low, and bring to the ground, even to the dust. You see, so when he talks about after 3 days and a half the spirit of life entered into them, and they stood upon their feet, and the great voice from heaven saying, come up hither. This is the redemption of the people of Yah. This is the redemption of the people. This is the vindication of the 144,000 and their faith in the Most High Yah. This is what this represents. You're following me so far? Testing 1, 2, 3. And he's going to come down. He's going to cause the earth to reel to and fro like a drunkard. Why? Because of the plagues. Because of the plagues. Those plagues, which we actually saw a glimpse of in the beginning of the sixth trumpet. We saw that, and it said the people didn't repent, right? That's the same thing. It's under the sixth seal, when the 144,000 give their message, these plagues are going to begin to fall. Okay? And the Most High himself is going to redeem us and deliver us. And then that's when we're coming into the seventh seal, and into the seventh trumpet, into the seventh church. Okay? Let's take a look here. Let's finish this. Revelation chapter 11. Revelation chapter 11. Let's go from verse 13 down to verse 14. Revelation chapter 11, verse 13 and 14. It says, their enemies beheld them. Yeah, they going to see when the Most High, they're going to say, the rocks and mountains fallen us and hide us from the face of him that sits on the throne, from the wrath of the Lamb, for the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? Yeah, it's too late now. Too late now. See, when you were dissing us, dogging us, and we running in the woods and stuff, you thought you was all big and bad. You thought you had won it. When you had set the laws against the Most High, you thought it was all over. All over for you. Praise the Most High Yah. Notice again, Revelation chapter 11, verse 13 and 14. In the same hour there was a great earthquake, and the 10th part of the city fell. And in the earthquake were slain of men 7,000, And the remnant were affrighted and gave glory to the Most High of heaven. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. Yeah, the remnant were affrighted and gave glory to Yah, the remnant of them which were left. Who's the remnant of them which are left? Great earthquake, and there's a remnant left. Who's left? Those that are redeemed from among the Gentiles. Those that are redeemed from among the Gentiles. Huh? See that? That's that remnant. See, those that are redeemed from among the Gentiles. That's right. Praise the Most High Yah, because they're gonna have some redeemed from among the Gentiles. Praise the Most High Yah. Okay, now we go to the seventh trumpet. Notice what it said. Now, it's no accident that it said that. It's no accident that it said that. That it said the second woe is past and the third woe cometh quickly. Why did it say that? Remember, now we said the sixth and seventh churches are tied together. The sixth and seventh seals are tied together. And guess what? The sixth and seventh trumpets, they come one after another. Boom, boom, just like that. Boom, boom. Because what's next? What's next? The return of the Most High, the return of the Messiah. That's what's next. And his revealing as to his victory over man, and his victory is counted as a victory of the two tables of the covenant, because the two tables of the covenant were attacked. And now they're going to say, we won. Praise the Most High. And the last thing you're going to see is the Ark of the Covenant, because that was under attack. Let's look at it. Revelation chapter 11, verses 15 to 19. We read this every week, don't we? Revelation chapter 11, verses 15 to 19. Notice what it says. And the seventh angel sounded, and there were great voices in heaven saying, the kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Yah and of his Messiah, and he shall reign forever and ever. And the 24 elders which sat before Yahweh on their seats fell upon their faces and worshipped Yahweh, saying, we give thee thanks, O Yahweh Al Shaddai, which art and was and art to come, because thou hast taken to thee thy great power and hast reigned. And the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, and the time of the dead that they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants the prophets, and to the saints, and them that fear thy name, small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth. And the temple of Yahweh was opened in heaven, and there was seen in his temple the ark of his testament. And there were lightnings and voices and thunderings and an earthquake and great hail. Notice again, it says the nations were angry. What were they angry at? Remember what they were angry at? They were angry because it said these two prophets tormented them that dwell on the earth. So the nations were angry at these two prophets that tormented them that dwell on the earth. The nations were angry, but you know what? They're gonna see what their anger get, because they're gonna meet with the anger of the Most High Yah. It says, and thy wrath is come. It says, and the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come. So they thought they were mad at us. They thought they were angry at us, and they was going to destroy us. Well, our Father got another thought for them. He got another thought for them. Let me show you real anger. That's what he get ready to. Oh, you want to see wrath? Let me show you real wrath. And the time of the dead, that they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants the prophets, and to the saints, and them that fear thy name, small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth. And notice again, the last thing that is seen of the seven trumpets, the last thing that is seen, the temple of Yah was opened in heaven, and there was seen in his temple the ark of his testament, or as we know it, the ark of his covenant. And there were voices and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake and great hail. Why? Because the Most High is rejoicing, because his name is vindicated, and is vindicated in the form of the two witnesses, the two tables of the covenant, which are inside the ark of the covenant. Praise the Most High Yah. No coincidence that he ends the seven trumpets with that. He ends the seven trumpets showing that. Praise the Most High Yah. Okay? So at the time, there's silence in heaven, because all heaven is coming to this earth for this event. At the time of the end, when the Laodiceans are acting the fool, because why? They're believing the tale and they refuse to repent. They're believing the tale of the dragon and they refuse to repent. At the time, the Most High says, the kingdoms of this world become the kingdoms of our Yahweh and of his Messiah, and he shall reign forever and ever. And y'all thought y'all was angry? Okay, let me show you some real anger. Nations were angry because these two prophets tormented them with the truth. You see, to the wicked, the truth is torment. That's what it is. That's the honest truth. The wicked at the end, and especially now, is being separate. Separation is becoming more and more distinct. You notice it? People are being separated. See, the truth separates people. That's what it does. It separates sheep from goats. It separates wheat from tares. It separates people from churches, separates people from religions, separates people from family. The truth separates. And the separations of the Most High, so that he might gather together his wheat and his sheep, that he might gather together his people and the rest of the folks. So as the time is now getting closer and closer, you're going to see more and more people trusting in lies, believing the world's institutions, putting their trust. You're going to actually see a revival of Christianity and Judaism and Islam. You're going to see people revival in those things, and they're going to start, and they're going to look at you and I like we're crazy because we're not part of that. That's right. Everything's being separated. And so when he comes, the separation is complete already. When the plagues fall, the separation is complete. Praise the Most High, Yah. And he knows those that are his. He has placed his mark in our foreheads, and he knows those that have received the mark of the beast and have the mark in their foreheads or in their hands. He knows them, and he knows who we are. The separation is complete. And it's going to be very clear. Going to be very clear and obvious, because we're going to be not in society. We're not going to be in the mainstream of society. We're going to be out. They're going to hate us. We're going to be outcast. The Bible says the outcasts of Israel is what the Bible calls us. The outcasts of Israel. We're going to be outcast. Why? Because we don't belong in the same society with these people. We don't belong there. Babylon is not our home. This is their kingdom. But then the Most High said, now it's going to become our kingdom. And we're going to destroy their kingdom. And he's going to set up a kingdom of righteousness. And he's going to have as the centerpiece of that kingdom the Ark of the Covenant. The two witnesses, the same two that tormented the wicked, are going to be a rejoicing to the righteous. Praise the Most High. Praise the Most High. So let's stop here. We're going to take a break, have a word of prayer, and then we're going to start in chapter 12. Let's take a break here.